Welcome, everybody. My name is Kevin Terry, and I am a delivery support specialist for headquarters. Prior to that, I was a supervisor of customer service, operations support specialist, and a postmaster. I also hold a master's degree in industrial organizational psychology, but you don't need a degree to understand what we're going to cover today. You just need ethics, common sense, and perseverance. We're very fortunate today to have Jackie Onefeather with us. She's a rural carrier out of Texas, and also she's a national level lead coordinator. Jackie has done so much for our program, so thank you, Jackie. Really appreciate everything you do for us. For full disclosure, we're on annual leave and not representing the Postal Service in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Today, we're going to be discussing the topic of what I call immersive servant leadership, specifically about building trust, achieving buy-in, and also embracing diversity. Leadership and teamwork are actions that I'm very passionate about. Prior to the post office, I was in the military, and that's where most of my leadership theories were formed. Okay, so my observations from personal experience, I noted the quality of leadership training was less than desirable. After being in numerous craft social media groups, gave a little bit more validity to what I was already feeling. We posted polls in some of these groups, and let's just say there was room for improvement. I concluded we needed to immerse postal culture and leadership principles. Immersion is the key. Having a class here and there is not immersive. Leadership is something that we practice every day. It's something that should be ingrained into everyday action. Continuous improvement, they teach to lead with humility and respect every individual as cultural enablers. If you haven't taken their virtual 10-week Operational Excellence Ambassador course, I highly recommend that you do. Our goals all start with the belief that we can improve. And sure, look, there's going to be difficult times, but if we view obstacles as opportunities, it helps us change our perspective. With the right perspective, I'm confident we can influence others to see our vision. But again, the key is immersing our culture and leadership principles. To promote immersive servant leadership, we first needed a catchy name, something that was good marketing, something that was a good attention getter. This is how LEAD was formed: leadership, education, and development. So now that we have a catchy name and a virtual venue, the next step was to promote it. Social media algorithms was a big part of growing the group, but obtaining the buy-in was the real challenge. We had to answer the question, what's in it for me? LEAD is multi-level mentoring at its finest, and it's made up of two main groups, mentors and mentees. But the question is, how do we achieve buy-in from both groups? For mentors, being recognized helps with getting promoted. That's very attractive to a high performer. Ask your local leadership to create the opportunity to gain recognition for promotion. Getting the POOMs and the district managers to show support for multi-level mentoring is huge. What I like to do is take pictures of our lead meetings and write an article about a mentor who volunteers their time to coach the mentees. We could even go as far as take that picture and article and put it into a postal publication, not to mention already posting it on social media. But here's the thing, Postal Inc. has some gravity during an interview. Don't underestimate the power of recognition and getting promoted. Picture yourself for a second. You're in an interview and you just told the POOM, or whoever the selecting official is, all these wonderful things about you. Now imagine you have Postal Inc., an article in your hand. After you tell them that, you say, don't take my word for it. Look at the article they wrote about me. So this Postal Inc. has some gravity. This is how we attain the buy-in of our mentors. A little recognition can go a long way. So how do we get buy-in for the mentees? Well, that's easy. They're hungry for knowledge. They want to learn. The key is to influence some mentors to volunteer. If you build it, they will come. Okay, so on the LEAD USPS only Facebook group, we have approximately 6,000 members in that group, over 6,000 members now. And then of those 6,000 members, approximately 1,000 of them complete our sign-up form. The sign-up form is a networking sign-up form. These are the people who are really interested in aggressively networking and learning. They're passionate. These push pins that you see on the map are the offices. Some of these offices that are highly engaged have more than one person from their office. Let's zoom in and take a closer look to get a better understanding. Since we're in Alabama, let's get close to see what's going on in Alabama. If we go down here to Dothan, it looks like we have a pretty good cluster. But if you click on these push pins, the name and what office they're in, that pops up. So this is helpful for 3-digit meetings. Let's go over to Fort Worth for a little bit. And Fort Worth has a good cluster. And the reason why Fort Worth has a good cluster is because of people like Jackie One Feather. She really got out there and advertised our lead meetings. And so right now we're trying to look around the Arlington area to hold meetings because that seems like a central location for everybody. So that's just a good visual. All right, so LEAD is an employee-driven initiative of highly motivated postal personnel who desire to improve operations while seeking career advancement through training, education, and networking opportunities. We emphasize servant leadership, teamwork, and continuous improvement. We welcome all postal employees, especially our future career employees. All right, but let me go back to the very beginning. There's 3 key points that I want to mention here about our mission statement. Number 1, it's an employee-driven initiative. That's important because if the post office is in control, it doesn't do our lead membership any good if someone's holding their hand, directing them, telling them what to do. This is project management. Being that it's an employee-driven initiative, number 1, it alleviates the Postal Service from any kind of liability. Okay, and number 2, it helps us raise up critical thinkers, people who know how to problem solve. The employee-driven initiative is very important. The second thing I wanted to point out, improve operations. Remember how I talked about buy-in from our mentors and mentees? Improving operations is to get buy-in from our district managers and our POOMs and higher level managers. Who does not want to improve their operations? Let's look at a triangulation report. Who does not want to improve their numbers? So that's how we get buy-in from the leadership. The third thing, seeking career advancement. Okay, that's the ultimate buy-in for the mentors and the mentees. But the cool thing is, everybody wins. The Postal Service incurs 0 cost. POOMs and district managers improve their numbers. Mentors and mentees gain recognition and knowledge. Morale goes up for everyone. And most importantly, our customers benefit with the improved service. Okay, now some say there's a disconnect between headquarters and the field, and if that's the case, LEAD can help bridge the gap. I think we should acknowledge failures and when we fall short. We should own it to a certain degree. This helps in establishing credibility. Another thing that we need to do, keep everybody informed. For instance, headquarters has and continues to implement some amazing ideas, such as the Supervisor Apprenticeship Program. The Supervisor Apprentice Program puts these apprentices as an EAS 16. You actually come in as an EAS 16, and for 6 months, you get a coach and a mentor, and it's an 8-hour day. You're not going to be out there running a route. Your sole purpose is to learn. Of course, we're going to have some kinks that need to be worked out. However, this is really encouraging, and this is part of our focus on the front, the Delivery for America plan. But another thing that we should keep people informed about is how about the supervisor to employee ratio? This was a huge win. You're going to have more, in the larger offices at least, you're going to have more supervisors. Okay, that means we could actually accomplish our workload. Keeping people informed of good things like this, it can help establish credibility and boost morale. The next thing we do is inspire vision. Okay, how do you inspire vision? Paint a picture for them about what the office could be. Provide specific examples. So inspiring vision is another thing. Of course, all this stuff, it really helps getting that buy-in that we need. Okay, and find opportunity to build trust. Sometimes you must look for ways to build trust. For instance, you might have an RCA that you had to call in at the last second to deliver a route, and they already have plans to go somewhere. You have a choice. You see this RCA walk through the door at the end of the day. You can stay quiet and go get on that telecon, or you could take 5 seconds and say, thank you. Thank you so much. And don't just thank them. Do something for them. The next time they really won't leave, work with them. Show that you thank them. So that's just a good way to build trust. Anyway, getting back. We see a hand reaching down trying to help. Headquarters has some amazing things in place, and there's going to be things in the future that are just as amazing. So we see this hand reaching down trying to help. The only thing missing is a hand reaching back. LEAD is a grassroots effort trying to bridge the gap between headquarters and the field. Let's define leadership. Some people say leadership is the ability to get people to do what you want them to do. My definition is a little bit more precise. Leadership is dynamic and is purposeful actions that inspires teams to willfully work together in accomplishing a task. There's a difference between motivating somebody and inspiring them. You can motivate somebody with fear, coercive power. Yeah, you can motivate them, but do you inspire them? Referent power takes it to another level, and that's the type of power that we're trying to achieve. Sure, you might have legitimate power, you might have positional power, you might even have coercive power, okay, but referent power is a power like no other. It makes people want to not let you down, and that is huge. That's what we're working towards. What do I mean, though, by when I say servant leadership? Servant leadership is a little different perspective from the style that many of us think of. Instead of asking, how can my people help me? The perspective shifts to, how can I serve my team? We must give our teams all of the tools, equipment, materials, and inspiration to be successful. All right, and some of y'all, you've probably seen this, boss versus leader. There's a difference between a boss and a leader. And you can look at both columns and probably find some similarities in your experience. The one that stands out for me is micromanaging. Micromanaging usually stems from one or a combination of several factors. Poor training, maybe perfectionism, I'll explain that in a minute, and stress. Sometimes it's a combination of all three of these that lead to micromanaging. Let's talk about poor training. And this is what gets me. If we fail to train, I don't even know why we measure. We already know the outcome. The outcome's going to be failure. So how can we seek perfection when we're not even training our people? Let's ensure we train our people. That's really the first step to avoiding micromanagement. The perfectionist. Seeking perfection is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, we encourage it. Continuous improvement. We encourage to seek perfection. But when put under stress, it can become a major derailer. So just understand that about perfectionists. When you're under stress and you have a time crunch, whatever it is, you really need to think about, what do I really need to make this happen? Instead of achieving perfection, sometimes we don't have time. And you have what's called the law of diminishing returns. Trying to get 100%, achieving that last 5 or 10% might not be worth the effort. Okay, so kind of keep that in mind if you're a perfectionist. That's something that I've struggled with that I've gotten a lot better at over the years. All right, now the last thing, stress. In a stressful situation or event, you add that in and you have a perfect storm for things to go bad. None of us are stranger to stress. We know how your true self sometimes comes out when you're in a stressful situation. Highly train your people, inspire them, empower them. When you empower somebody, you give them latitude and tolerate those minor mistakes. And with a high level of emotional maturity, we can avoid micromanaging. Anyway, but look at this little chart, the difference between a boss and leader. Figure out which one do you want to be. I think most of us in here all want to be on the leadership side. Okay, before we continue, let's consider a few important psychological concepts. There's a guy by the name of Albert Bandura. He's a psychologist widely recognized for his social cognitive theory in how the environment shapes human behavior. Think about the environment we create if we do not tolerate minor mistakes, using discipline as a first line of defense rather than attempting to coach first. What happens if we create an environment like this? And what happens if we do it for many years? Maybe you didn't cause it. Maybe previous managers did. But we need to realize that some of our employees are going to have a hard time trusting because they've been conditioned not to trust. No one wakes up in the morning wanting to be a failure. Perhaps they've just simply been conditioned to be negative. How do we gain a level of trust to overcome that cognitive dissonance they're suffering from? Look, it can be very difficult, but that's why we attempt to prove our leadership skills every day. It is a challenge, and the question is, are you up to the challenge? If you have the ability to change that employee's perspective, to find the positive, the silver lining in things, and to never give up and always do your best, you're the one who helped that employee. So look at it like a challenge. Don't just throw them away. No, that's a valuable asset that we have. We need to invest in them to at least make an attempt, because the consequences of poor leadership can be severe. And all of this stems from lack of trust. And that's one of the things that we're trying to get at, is how do we improve that trust? Take every chance, and when I say every chance, take every chance to build mutual trust. And notice I said mutual. Many of our actions will either build or destroy trust. And you have to be cognizant, you have to be self-aware. There's perception versus reality. How our employees perceive us is our reality, like it or not. So you really have to be a self-aware person and know what vibe you give off. And I want to recommend 2 books here. The first one, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. I believe his name is Patrick Lencioni. But anyway, the author states that trust is the foundation of high-performing teams. So I recommend that book. It's really good. Another good book by Stephen Covey is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And 2 habits that really stand out to me as far as building trust is the one where he talks about, he goes, think, win-win. When all sides win, it's a great way to build trust. And another habit that he talked about is seek first to understand, then to be understood. It's important. Seek first to understand, then be understood. When we listen empathetically and we're trying to understand the situation instead of listening to respond. How many of us are guilty of that? I know I've been. If we listen to respond, you're not going to get the full story. So seek first to understand, then be understood. So let's listen empathetically. It's a great way to gain trust. To be successful, you need to obtain buy-in. You can only do that when there's mutual trust. There's so many ways to build trust. My point is to find opportunities and make it a habit. You won't be disappointed. Gaining and maintaining trust is probably your most important priority. And now I want to talk about diversity for a little bit. I don't think we include diversity enough in any of our training. And when I talk about immersive leadership, I try to include diversity in almost everything that I do. But I'm not talking about diversity in the compliance sense. Okay, if we want to be real, I think we need to recognize some people only virtue signal. I'm talking about diversity in a practical sense, not just mere compliance. Start working with people who do not look like you, who do not act like you. Diversity is so important because we obtain more ideas and your mind will be open to different perspectives. Just like leadership principles, we need to immerse our culture in diversity. All right, so if you agree with some of the things that I said today, please consider joining LEAD on Facebook. We need mentors to guide the next generation. And when we all give just a little bit of time, we can accomplish so much more.